possibilities. I have an offer for you that you can't refuse.
Oh.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get the deal you think you got.
Strong possibility of that.
Slightly used soul for sale. Comes in parts.
I don't know. I thought, since tonight is, of course, Halloween, we would talk about a few things that occur with Halloween. First of them being movies.
Oh boy. Okay.
Riddle me this. What is your first funny psychic movie?
Funny psychic movie?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
You know, it's sad because the thing that came up to my mind was not funny, but like was romantic. And I have a thing for Le Chocolat.
Oh, okay. What movie is that?
Chocolat? Chocolat.
Chocolat?
That's what.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is a gypsy movie-ish. The whole premise is this guy marries this woman from the United States or the South America. I can't remember exactly, but like they warn him that she is a traveler, and she like runs off with his kid, and it's all about finding a place in the world.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. What about you, Miss Gwen?
well, the first one that popped into my mind, you said funny, and she was really funny in it. Teen Witch. It was my go-to movie growing up, and I loved that woman. I cannot remember her name. Dottie, you know what I'm talking about? Anybody? Do you remember her?
Esmeralda?
The little old lady, and she played a psychic in so many things.
Oh, I know which one. Didn't she play in Poltergeist?
Yeah.
The little old lady from Poltergeist. I don't remember Teen Witch.
Yeah. Teen Witch was a girl who was turned 16 and then came into her powers, and her necklace was her totem, and it was passed down through past lives to get to her now, and it's good. But that was my movie growing up. It was always my favorite. All right, what's yours?
I have two, actually, because I can't decide which one I laugh the hardest at. One is Ghost.
Oh, I love that. That's an oldie but a goldie.
And the other one is Poltergeist. And to me, it is a comedy. I think it's called Poltergeist 4 or 5. Carol Ann, come to the light. Come to the light, Carol Ann. No, go to the light. Yeah.
Oh, that creepy guy from the second one.
The Reverend.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
We are doing readings tonight, but someone else is going to have to read the screen unless we get them highlighted each time, because I don't have my lenses on.
Are we all doing readings tonight?
Yes.
Yes. So I have been doing cauldron readings on Wednesday night. So I actually thought tonight, instead of doing cauldron readings, I would use the Spirit of Halloween deck. So
Interesting. I'm going to do a little flame reading.
Oh.
All in candlelight.
I guess I'll break out the dark mirror. We're going to find out the root of the issue.
Oh, tonight's going to be fun.
Yes, it's a total shadow work deck. That's all it does. It's like, why are you doing the things you're doing? Exactly. I think I've had it on here a couple times before.
Yes. It's a great deck.
It can be a little harsh.
Yes, it will take them closer to break time. We're going to do some Halloween talk first, but yes, we will be taking readings tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Do remember to include your birth date. Keep the lawyers happy. Lord knows we don't want the hellhounds and lawyers after us called the federal government.
I am pretty sure that the devil is a lawyer.
Close.
He is a litigious ass at the very least.
He has them well trained.
I actually have a buddy that I call the devil because I do not want to owe that man a single thing. Not a favor, not an ounce of gold.
I have friends like that because they've learned that. Because I call favors in most likely when I need them. So I thought, since it is Halloween, we'd first take on some Halloween myth and bust them.
Okay.
And then we'd tell our favorite paranormal story.
I know there's so many. Like, my favorite are still I swear to God, like paranormal stories. I'll get started there.
Yeah, you have to choose your favorite, your most entertainment one. And then after that, we'd take questions. And who knows who else is going to be bubbling up out of the cauldron tonight. We'll see who else comes in to join. They can just hop in as we come.
And I do have a topic that I would like to get your all's thoughts on.
Okay. So let's talk some myths that drive us batty during Halloween.
Black cats and black dogs, man. I tell you what, I'm always a little afraid to let Luther out this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is something that I've picked up because I don't know. I'm just a little afraid that somebody's going to get scared of him, extra scared of him, or try to take him to do a sacrifice with. I don't know.
Yeah,
a bunch of stupid teenagers, and they're liable to do any damn thing. Like,
well, you have to watch the movies and see what's going on, because I know when Hocus Pocus 1 came out, there was this rash of people adopting and kidnapping black cats. Catnapping, I guess it would be called. Also, when Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Sabrina the Adventures of the Teenage Witch came out, both of those black cats pulled up. The Craft brought a lot of students to witchcraft.
You know what? That was a big part of my training because we watched that in Girl Scouts, which is... And then I think right after that, one of my friends got caught with a abracadabra triangle in their drawer. Like, who are you protecting against? The only other people who watch the movie are us. Like, who's it?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is after your ass? Like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what myth drives you crazy? And this one didn't drive me crazy till this year.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yes. What Halloween myth drives you crazy?
You already shared mine.
I think mine would have to be the pumpkins because it wasn't originally a pumpkin.
Nope.
It was a turnip.
It was a turnip, right? Yeah. So pumpkins, I believe, should be, and this is just my personal opinion. It has no weight bearing whatsoever. But I think it should be more for fall or Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I think pumpkins are a lot easier to carve than turnips.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true.
I mean, they're already hollow. I mean, it kind of goes with the myth.
Yeah.
Of have you ever heard? Does anybody here like know the myth of Jack?
No, I don't know why he's in a lantern either.
Okay, so so he was truly a wicked man. This is one of those Irish tales that's been Americanized. I don't know, and everybody tells it different. I'm going to give you the brief overview because I'd have to look it up to actually give you a decent telling. But basically, Jack was a wicked man, and he was reaching the end of his days, and so the devil sent his youngest son to go and collect his soul. Well, Jack beat him up. I think he just beats up the younger son, just beats the hell out of him, sends him back with his tail between his legs. So the devil sends his eldest son, big, strong son. And this one, I can't remember, he tricks him and then beats him up. So the devil's biggest son comes back. He's like, all right, you want him? You get him. So the devil goes after him, and I can't remember exactly. Like I said, there's so much flavor missing from me telling this story right now. I wish I could look it up.
If you would just have some confidence in it.
Well, no, like I think he ties him up and beats him up, sends the devil back to his own home. He says, so when he finally does die, he comes to the gates of hell for his, final rest, and the devil's like, I want nothing to do with you. Here, take a lump of coal. Hands him a fiery lump of coal and says, go make your own hell. You're more than worthy of it. So that's the jack-o'-lantern. He carries that lump of coal in it. Traditionally turnip, but
in the turnip.
Yeah.
That's the story of jack-o'-lantern.
I was told to light the ways of the souls. Because, of course, tonight is the night of the, not tonight, it's November 7th, but it's the night of the Wild Hunt, when all souls walk the earth. All souls walk the earth. And you want to light their way so that they don't get stuck and confused and, go into your home or get stuck in your mirror. And that's why you always have a mirror by your front door. But I was always told that, and this story, is what my grandmother always said, is the one night a year that the souls get to walk the earth, and you want to stay home and stay out of their way. And if they come to visit, you give them something sweet.
That's what I'd heard. Like, you light the candle so that your loved ones know where to come.
Right.
And follow the light home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? This is one thing that I do love about the Day of the Dead celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, these are our ancestors. These are our dead people. Like, they go, they decorate the grave, and they just have a party, and they welcome their loved one back for a night or two.
Mm-hmm. Or three.
And I know that it seems like we lost all of that.
Well, I think we've lost all that in America. Because, one, we've divorced death. Like, sorry, I've seen ex-husbands get treated better than dead people.
That's true.
I think that, we disassociate ourselves from death as much as possible with the advent of hospitals, undertakers, and funeral homes. And funerals are done within 2 hours, and the families expect to be back at work within 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
If that. Some have to go to work that night because there's not enough blood connection to you. And I think that, so we forget, and then we've got and this is my pet peeve around Halloween. There is one movie with a green witch in it. She's after a pair of shoes like any noble witch would be. So, honey, you don't go shopping with other witch friends because we will go after the shoes all together.
Listen, if somebody stole my sister's shoes, robbed the house on her and stole her shoes, I would rain holy hell on that bitch too. Like, I would be there for that. I would be on that like white on rice.
And I get that. Me too. Especially red ones because they're hard to find. Right. But so somewhere between the release of that movie and standard culture, somehow we became green.
That is my biggest is the green witch. I just can't handle it.
And we're not talking about the green witches, meaning the green witches that are green.
And we're not talking about our herbal kitchen witches. We ain't talking about you, dear. You come sit with us.
Just have a seat. We're talking about the Hollywood witches. What I would love to see more of, and I see it more in adult costumes, it pisses me off. It's like, why can't the kids dress like this? The sexy witch. The attractive witch, the the enchantress that tempts the men.
I have this. I'm gonna say it, and this may cost me, but I don't care. I like the new Hocus Pocus. I do kind of wish they hadn't humanized baby eating. Like, not cool with the fact that these assholes like stole and ate children. Not at all okay with that. Not at all okay with that. But it was definitely a more modern telling. Like, it definitely had the whole girl power feel.
Well, you know where that comes from, right? The whole baby eating thing?
Yeah.
When they use the fat of unbaptized children to make a flying oil.
No, Lord, no, honey.
The
That ain't where
midwives.
that come from.
The midwives.
The witch used to come to your house to give birth. If that baby did not survive, you ain't going to hand it up to the father and go, see, here you go. Here's your dead baby. You're going to prepare the body and shuffle it away.
I mean, that makes sense too. You know, there was a lot of things like I was actually watching Esoterica is a channel on YouTube, and the guy does an academic study of occultism and esotericism. And he actually did the witch trials of, I think it's Nuremberg, the ones that were really bad, where they burnt like 1,000 people.
Yes.
And how like even the Inquisition wasn't a fan of the Maleficarium. Like, the guy who wrote it because he got bested by a noblewoman. Like, he was embarrassed by this woman.
So, you know, King James, I don't know, what else did he write? It causes a pain in our ass.
Demonology.
Author writes the Malice of Maleficarium. Now, excuse me, ladies, I need to summon somebody else. Hey, bring her back in here.
I don't. Like,
yeah, there you are.
Did we lose her?
She'll be back.
Hello.
Where? Trying to
magic disappearing acts.
Not at all. Not like candles flickering, but you can at least show up.
You know what? It's been a rough week for me, okay?
You want to renegotiate that contract yet?
No. I'm sticking this one out so I don't have to re-sign another one because I didn't fulfill my previous one.
Now, see, you guys are out here trying to buy individual souls. When will you guys learn to buy them in bulk? Like a proper religion.
In bulk. That's what the Christians are for. We are not taking it from them.
You know, am I sharing to my page? Am I on my page?
Yes.
Like, this is how organized my mind is today.
It's handled. Just sit down and grab your brew and have a talk.
I'm here.
Yeah. The other thing that gets me is, sorry, yes, there were some witches burned in England. No witches were burned in Salem. What? All of them were hung except one. It was the male witch, and he was crushed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's first of all say that none of the witches in Salem were actually witches, because if you look at the testimony from those trials, they have a very, very penitive, what the hell did I do attitude that would have been common in the time. So,
well, I do not that we're hung, but I do disagree with you with one.
There's also a socioeconomic aspect to the Salem trials that people ignore. Yeah. Like, literally, I remember I took a class on American history, and we did a lesson on this, and the teacher laid a map over, like, of the accused over a map of the town. It's literally one side of the town. Like, they started off with the derelicts, of course.
Well, they started off with a poor enslaved person that I would agree would qualify nowadays to be a witch.
She probably knew some root work.
Yes. Okay, so they started off with her. Now, granted, they didn't kill her. I believe they beat her, imprisoned her for 6 months, and then sold her.
I'd have to look it up, but
I'd have to look it up. You know, it's been a while since I've looked at that. There was a couple people that were able to be midwives that were skilled, and then one man that was just as stubborn as hell. I mean, he would have made a great high priest.
Backstory to that. He was actually, and God bless him, he actually, there is a curse on Salem. If you see that guy, that means Salem is about to get hit with something big, because he still occasionally shows up. But his story was that he was actually like a lawyer, or at least very litigious. And I can't remember. I think he was actually a lawyer, because remember, you're not too far from Boston and the colleges, because there's a whole thing in Salem about about how the colleges were kind of warring around this. Like, this happened in the middle of whatever. Anyway, but he refused to put in a plea, because if you plead, then they would send you to trial, and of course he knew that you'd find him guilty and take his land. So if he didn't put in a plea, they couldn't take him to trial and take his land. So he chose to be crushed to death versus having his family lose their shit.
Right.
So that's why so God bless him.
Yeah, and they're still looking for the bodies of those victims. So let's catch Miss Natalie McVicker's up.
Because I'm just sitting here like, no clue what you guys are talking about.
Well, first of all, what's your funny psychic Halloween movie?
I'm just gonna wait until
what's
someone
your
catches
favorite
me
psychic
up.
Halloween movie?
Which movie?
What's your favorite psychic Halloween movie?
Oh, Teen Witch.
Ta-da! That's what I said.
There. Okay.
Teen Witch. It is just cheesy enough.
Uh-huh.
But it's like one of those like hidden gems of like the late 80s, early 90s. It has all the vibes. I mean, just all of it. It's just, Teen Witch.
Yeah.
A Halloween movie that does not get the rep it deserves, because this is one of those movies, if they'd have called it anything else, it would have been much more well accepted, but it's still famous just because of the name. Halloween 3.
Okay.
They should have named it something else.
I haven't seen any of the Halloween movies, so I cannot comment on any of that.
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what is your pet peeve Halloween myth? An example, I'm tired of everyone dressing up like Wizard of Oz's witch.
Yeah, I mean, that, like, green face in general, and, like, the prosthetic noses and the fake fingers and stuff like that.
The whole prosthetic nose, like, is actually anti-Semitic. A lot of what we know of as the witch trope is hold over from the anti-Semitic propaganda of, like, the something century that I can't remember it off the top of my head. I think 15.
I understand where you're going with that. Yeah, but it's like anything to do. I mean, meanwhile, I gotta say, I do love a good hat. And, there were some things that I really, really do appreciate about that aesthetic. But when it's used to mock or make fun of or add horror to what we do, that leaves a really bitter taste in my mouth. And I'm like, because if you actually knew the truth about like what it is that we do and who we are as people, you would be shocked to find out who in your community of friends is actually a witch. And you just didn't know it yet.
Or didn't need to know it. Now, example like, and we are looking at, we'll go back 3 generations. You call my grandmother a witch, she'd beat you with her broom.
Well, it was the less offensive way of calling somebody
with a purse if you were out in public.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just reclaimed that name, I want to say mid-70s.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about it. I know that I've heard people call people witches when they mean to use bitches.
Yeah, you can call me a bitch. Because I am brilliant, intelligent, talented, charming, and a hell of a hustler.
Right.
Wise
Exactly.
woman, yes.
Like,
my grandma was a granny woman, so
yeah. I think I don't know what my grandmother was, my great grandmother, my dad's mother. Like somehow, because her father had died before she was born, she never got to see him, that it gave her some sort of power. And she was the one who could make the cough syrups. She was the one who could blow in somebody's ear to fix an earache, or read a certain passage out of a Bible to stop somebody's bleeding, like distant healing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was common practice at the time. Because there were no, if you went to a doctor, you went to die. That's still deep in what...
Or you went because you were in the process of dying. Like it got that bad.
Yeah,
that every poultice and cream that you had created was just not working.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with Natalie since she's fresh at the table, and we'll go down and around.
Okay.
What is your favorite psychic experience on Halloween?
On Halloween?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I've had many that stick out that are specifically on Halloween. I mean, I had some really cool things happen today.
Okay.
That's probably going to stick with me for a good bit in my memory bank, because it was I got to experience something not just with a group of people, but my mom got to be a part of it too, which was really fun because, you know, like she was at church yesterday. And, you know, and it's like, you know, this is a great leap and bound that she has made. But my mom works for an Alzheimer's and dementia live-in facility. So there are like long-term live-in residents who very likely will not be leaving.
Yeah.
Unless they find another, you know, like rehab facility that's better suits their needs. But the facility my mom works for is fantastic, and she is the activities director, or the zest director for her facility. So she's in charge of keeping their minds going through various activities, whether it's like through movies or having people coming in and doing events and things like that. My mom approached me a couple weeks ago and she's like, so how cool would it be if I got a real psychic to come into my work and do readings for the residents? And I was like real readings? I was like, because I don't know if they'd be ready for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And she's like, no. She's like, and she asked me, she's like, I know that you've talked about your like affirmation deck and how nice and positive it is. And I was like, yeah, it is. And she's like, well, can you send me like pictures of some of them or tell me what some of them say? And, you know, maybe if that would be a good thing for them to have. And I was like, okay, yeah. So she had to look at some of the messages on the card. She's like, they're perfect. They're all about like following love, following faith, trusting in the universe. Like they're all good, positive, uplifting messages. There's nothing negative in them. And I was like, no, it's literally a really high vibrational deck. So I was like, we can do that. Well, then like 30 minutes before I'm supposed to start with my mom today, she goes, so there are some people who want like real readings. And I was like a real reading. And I was like, are you sure? Are they okay to receive that, first of all? She goes, yes. And I was like, okay. And with it was like the very first person that sat down, this gentleman, and I said something, paraphrasing here, that he was being encouraged to stand up and share his stories and spread joy. Okay. My mom is slamming her hand on the table. This is the first person. My mom is slamming her hand on the table and she goes, Natalie, let me tell you something about this Mr. Person here. And I said, okay. She goes, next month, he is doing a stand-up comedy routine for the rest of the residents where he will be standing up, sharing his stories and spreading joy. And I was like, So even when I'm not trying to be psychic, I'm still being psychic. I was
really, do you think you get out of it?
Tone it down and not say something that was going to startle them, you know, and cause chaos, because that's the last thing you want to do with somebody who's already on the mental decline, is cause them more mental chaos. So I was really asking them, I'm like, can you just not just not go? Give me like
this is not a free party warning over there. Show up, be nice.
Right. I was like, just give the encouragement, but don't say something about like their World War II buddy coming through with a message, because I don't think they are going to handle that very, very well. And I don't want their long lost lover that passed away 50 years ago coming through with a message saying they're still waiting for them, because I can't. So, but even in all of the messages, even my mom's called me about maybe 2 hours afterwards. She's like, Natalie, I got to tell you, even after the event was over, I had residents coming up to me saying, I can't believe she said those words, because that's exactly how I've been feeling. And that's exactly what I've been doing to make those changes. Even though they're in a live-in facility, there are things that they can be doing for themselves to get themselves up and making a better experience for themselves. So that to me is probably going to stick with me for a good bit, that I was able to not only connect in front of like a live group audience, like came and sat down and, you know, actively wanted to participate and were excited, but that my mom got to witness those connections. And like my mom was like, she's like, even I was thinking in my head, yeah, they are doing that. Yep, I've been seeing that in them recently. You're absolutely right. You know, because my mom works with these people on a regular basis, so she sees their growth and improvement in certain areas. So when I was picking up on that, and I don't have a clue who these people are, my mom's just like, this is so cool.
Yeah. See,
so that was I think that's going to be a memory for me.
Yep. All right, Miss Dottie, what's your favorite psychic experience Halloween story?
Halloween, you know, it's too hard to pin down the dates for things. Like, I don't know anything that happened like specific on Halloween, but talking about the nursing home brought up an interesting story. I had one of my favorite clients, one of my favorite residents. She was a hoot, man. She was full blown, like, she was crazy before she got stuck in the nursing home. So like that was just her life. That's how she lived her whole life. And she was very psychic. And she would just sit there and run her mouth all the time. So sometimes it'd be like, I give you a pie. You want a pie? I'll give you a pie. I got an apple and a peach. And like, she would always do that. But she like, every now and then she'd look at you. She'd say, I'm going to die tonight. I'm like, oh God, I know it's going to happen one day, but don't do it on my shift.
Like, can you just wait until I clock out? At least
wait until I clock out. Like, you're one of my favorite. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. But, you know, and she, you know, eventually she probably did. It's been a long time since I've worked there. But there's nursing homes are creepy. Okay? It is a place where people go to live out their final chapter. They don't always leave just because they died. And there are things that come and just feed off that dying energy. Like, it's unless you got a witch on staff to keep that place cleansed and everything like that, you're gonna have, especially when you hit into a death cycle, like when somebody's getting ready to die.
Yeah.
So like, people were always talking to their dead loved ones. But one night, I don't remember, something was just giving me the creeps. Like, I was trying to work at my med cart, so I like set a circle so I could just get these fucking meds done, get these meds to these people. And I stepped outside of my circle, and you know, when you've got a set, especially when you're just getting back into practice and you screw up just a little bit, I had that energy drop. Like, I had like my shirt, like, it's like a diabetic sugar drop.
Yeah, it's like you crash. Like your energy, it's like your energy got sucked out of you like a Dyson vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, you're like, fine, not fine. Like, I'm like, God. And she starts screaming, oh, there's a devil. She just starts screaming, get away from me, devil, you go back to hell. She just flips out. And I was like, and I'm already creeped out because I can feel this thing like, I'm like, oh God. It's like, I just want to pass my medics to people. I just want to get people the medication so they can go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Leave me alone. But we always had like every time, because I used to, like I said, I used to work in a nursing home. So some of my favorite stories still come from the nursing home. There was the midnight crying baby, the disembodied knock. That one still gets me. That one rocked my world just a little bit. The disembodied knocking. It was coming from the supply closet. Nobody in there. There's nobody in that supply closet. That knocking was not coming from elsewhere. The moment I opened the door to the supply closet, the knocking stopped.
You interrupted.
Gwen.
Well, it wouldn't stop until somebody opened the door. Like it felt like, and I did feel like there was a presence that left. Like somehow the spirit was, because we were going to a death cycle, so it may have been one of the recently passed clients, because there was a couple at the time. Because it did feel like somebody left the room, but not like there was an actual person there. I'm like, that's pretty powerful. The midnight crying baby, that was a weird one too.
Yeah.
Well, Asen, I know you said that eventually we were going to talk about paranormal experiences.
And that's what we're talking about.
Can I just lead right into this because this is mine. In St. Albans on Halloween, we did a investigation, and it was the most beautiful investigation I had ever done. Everybody always wants to hear scary stories. I do not have scary stories. Well, I could tell you things that happen. It might scare you, but yeah. Anyway, what happened was I'm a big researcher. So I took the information that I had and worked up something. The wife was a dancer in her younger days, and she loved to dance, like ballroom dancing, and her husband, being the gentleman that he was, would join her. They died separately, and he pretty much grieved himself to death for her. So here I am starting to get cold chills. So I managed to find some music that they would have danced to. From the left side came a ball of light. From the right came a ball of light. And they kind of circled each other for a little bit and just was kind of like, do I know you? I think I know you. And then they just went into perfect sequence together and danced. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. They eventually just kind of went off to the side together. I was like, they were able to find their person in the afterlife. It was just one of my most beautiful experiences. Don't really, I mean, through paranormal, do you do fear? I mean, if you've worked in the paranormal field, do you really fear anything anymore? Like that's a question that I have.
I fear nothing, including humans, but that's just me.
For me, I think there's a difference between having fear and being spooked by something. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing an investigation and suddenly you see a shadow moving and it startles you and it gives you those chills and it spooks you or scares you. But there's a difference between being afraid of something or being spooked by something.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still get those jump scares. Like,
my husband can scare the shit out of me standing in the hallway doing nothing, and I can turn around not expecting to see him, and I'm sure that my neighbors think that somebody just broke into my house and is trying to murder me. like the type of scream that comes out of my body is just like explosive, you know what I mean? But I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you scared me. It doesn't mean I'm afraid of him. You know what I mean? It's just like, God damn it. I was not expecting that to come out at me. And if I had just been prepared, I would have been prepared.
So maybe it was better than say, does places like haunted houses, like the attractions, can you go to the?
We'll talk about those in a minute because I want
Well, that's my thing. After you've worked in the paranormal field, does things like that, is it a waste of time for you? That's one of my questions tonight.
Okay, well, I will tell my story and then I'll answer that.
Okay.
No, it isn't a waste of time for me. No, to go to the haunted houses because it's fun, especially if they're animatronics, because those are just fucking hilarious. But so a couple years back, before Joe came, it was the year before I got Joe, I got booked for a Halloween party. Wasn't on Halloween, but it was a Halloween party. Okay. I go in, I'm setting up. They got me in the little living room space. This is awesome. There's enough room there. I can put my table down, my chairs. I don't have to move furniture around. I can just do it. And I'm, lighting the candles because I've done all the Halloween deco stuff and the candles to go in the oil warmers and the skulls and all that. All of a sudden, I hear glass shattering.
Oh.
The homeowner comes over and goes, are you doing anything weird in here? I'm like, just setting up. He says, okay, because in the other room, we had a Ouija board set up for guests to play with, and it just flew out the window. Can you handle that?
No. I'd be like, that is your mess. You clean it up.
I'll gladly go out and get your Ouija board.
Right, but what you just did, that's on you, dude.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with that.
I hear people say I have very strong energy, and when I do read, I do push my energy out to my space because I hate people disturbing a reading.
Yeah.
I've even had cameras mess up when people are trying to take pictures of me doing readings. Ask Joe. He's had to clean up some messes when we've tried to take promo pictures because I'm always like foggy and stuff. That's the only thing I can think is my aura just pushed so far past that room and it scared the Ouija board.
That's awesome.
That must have been a hell of an attachment. I will tell you this. I have a spirit board back there.
Mm-hmm.
And being the experienced psychic / witch that I am, I was like, well, I'm going to break every fucking rule. I didn't summon anything. I didn't straight summon anything. But I was like, you know what? I like the moment I picked up that board, I'm like, it's picking up the energy. Like you can feel it charging off of me. I'm feeling tapped in. It makes me want to do things. So I played with it. I'm like, nothing happened. I'll give it a few days because, sometimes if nothing happens, they're waiting for things to get quiet. They're waiting for you to not look. Wait until you're not looking.
Mm-hmm.
And midnight. I know it was midnight because my roommate drove by. He was working an evening shift and he drove by literally 5 minutes after this happened. I'm still kind of freaking out a little bit. Luther is in the bed with me. We're asleep. And he and I both sit bolt upright. He goes from laying to sitting. I don't even, I did the fucking corpse lift, just straight up from the abdomen. I'm like, and I heard witch. I'm like, I'm going to go dispel that board, right fucking now.
All right, so Joe has a comment here. I can see his face. I can't see what it says. So, A, can you highlight it, and B, somebody read it?
Because apparently I was on the discount rack at the pound.
No, 2 above that.
Oh.
Asen goes to an event with alcohol and ends up drunk. I'd hate to see what happened after sending him through a line of dementia readings.
I would pay money for that. I tell you what, I've missed some part of it. I will never be able to give the care that I would expect for my family member at this point because I don't remember the medications as well as I should. And, it is a diminishing skill set. Being a nurse is a diminishing skill set. I'll never be able to do it again. But I missed.
Look at him go, why doesn't he have a shot of 5 milligrams of Haldol? It has been 24 hours and he is still up the wall. Shoot him down.
Booty juice.
I will remember that prescription forever. And go back down to Joe's pound comment.
Because apparently I was.
No, I want him to bring it up here. No, you were not at the pound. You were just stubborn ass that wouldn't stay still and kept making me move all across the damn eastern seaboard to find your ass.
Quit wiggling. Just stay still. Okay, boomer, really?
How to hex a lover live
on next week's episode.
Roundtable.
On the next episode, the psychic that plans. The psychic that plans.
Natalie's going to be reading them. If we got questions, Natalie gets to read them.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
That's if my back decides to cooperate with me. It's very spasmy at the moment, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah, y'all don't want me to read out loud.
Huh?
Did you do your yoga?
I did stretches this morning. I've got to do my evening round, but I've still got like an egg-shaped knot right where they did the injections, because when they did the injections, my muscles immediately went spasm around the needle, and it still doesn't really want to let go.
Yeah. Well, and how much sugar have you had over the past 2 days?
I haven't had much to eat today.
Okay.
Honestly, I had a piece of pizza just before I came on here, and a cup of tea earlier this morning.
I like the tea, the pizza. Yeah, hopefully it wasn't thin crust.
It wasn't.
Okay, good.
Bananas would help.
Yeah.
Banana, yeah.
I know. It's like a spasm due to, well, being impaled multiple times in the same spot over and over and over again. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like, I know why it hurts. Like, I understand the injury. I understand why it's doing what it's doing. It's just it's hypersensitive too, and it's just not. Ugh.
I just find it interesting, however, that most American food, and hopefully Natalie can add with this, has sugar in it, and we have most of the people in the Americans having more pain and physical discomfort.
I want to say something here in regards to that very, very thing, because in the UK, if you look at the ingredients on the back of a pack of potato chips, right? American versus like the UK version, the UK version will have 4, maybe 5 ingredients. That's not including like spice mixes that might have like up to like 9 different spices in it, but that's not really that's one ingredient. You know what I mean? That's just the flavoring. But like if it says like coloring, it'll say carrot juice, spinach juice, beet powder, chlorophyll, things like that, blue-green algae, things like that. They are all natural colorants. Whereas you look at the back of an American one, it's got 7,000 different preservatives and just
food's engineers.
Just fillers. I mean, it's like the can of like Parmesan cheese is half wood pulp. The same cellulose stuff that they put in diapers is in that can of shaky powder cheese. You're eating wood.
Yeah.
You're not eating cheese. You're eating milk powder that's been fermented or aged. And then to stop it from caking and to stop it from clumping down into one solid mass, they fill it with wood pulp to absorb the moisture.
Yes.
So next time you're shaking stuff on your pizza, look at it like it's sawdust.
Basically.
Because that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, but no, and we'll talk about this when me and Natalie get together again, but I'm fussing at her and her sugar because it conducts pain more.
Oh, no, hang on one sec. I'm going to go get my charger for my computer.
We'll take you down.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. So, Do we do scary paranormal, Dottie?
What?
Do we do scary paranormal is the question on the table.
Do we do scary paranormal? Well, how scary do you think it is? Like, you mean me scary? Apparently, I can be pretty scary if you're talking about.
We all
yeah,
can be scary. I mean, that's why I came as the devil, because damn, I get called the devil all the time.
I mean, literally, like, I don't know. In my office, like my work office, not the new office, but the office where I'm getting paid to sit down and file papers and stuff, I found a bunch of clowns, like porcelain clowns, and I brought them down to my office. And sometimes I don't realize how creepy and weird I am until I see somebody react. You know, like you don't know how far out into the void you have traversed until somebody looks at you like,
Right.
And I got that exact reaction from one of my coworkers because I found him on like an abandoned floor. This is an abandoned office in the building I'm at. And they're like, yeah, it's creepy up there. I'm like, I love it. I could work here.
I wonder if they'd rent it out to you super cheap since it's creepy.
I've already got that lease signed. My down payment for my office was $666 and I had to pay in cash. Exact change.
See, I told you had to make a deal with me. I always love that number. Anyhow, so, Joe, do we have any questions? If so, bring it up.
Do we need to do commercials?
We are after we take a question or two.
I don't think I've heard it.
The echo chant? I'm perfectly fine with that chant. That's actually from Valiente. She does it in her documentary of witchcraft. So I don't have a problem with it at all. That's my opinion of it.
I don't recognize it. It's one of those things that I'm not really good at attaching names to songs. That's right. One of the weirder things that has
it's Eco Zodarak, Eco. It's something to that effect. Okay. All right, so let's go to commercial, and when we come back, Miss Natalie will be back with us, all smiling and cheers, and who knows what spooky stuff we'll get up to.
Hi, I'm Dottie the Psychic, and I'm sure you're wondering why I'm not wearing any makeup. Well, one reason is to irritate my social media manager, Asen Knight. Hi, Asen. The other reason is because I like to get to the naked truth about what it means to be a neurodivergent LGBT person with psychic abilities. I've got vlogs, blogs, and podcasts and videos all related to trying to live my best life and helping witches and bitches do the same thing. So, you can check all that out and get a reading from Dottie the Psychic at DOTTIE.com. Safe travel and much profit to you.
Do you have a cute pet? We know you do. Each week, Tracy Vann chooses from submitted photos a featured reader for her Facebook page and provides a tarot reading. Your adorable pet cat, dog, rabbit, goat, chicken, snake, or more could be her next featured reader. Visit TracyVann.com, TracyVann.com, and click Featured Reader to submit. We look forward to seeing your pet next.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here, and I am here to tell you how to get in contact with me and a little bit about what I do. I am the High Priestess that works with shadow work to help you grow and heal. And I work with access bars, Reiki. I do power forms. I'm recently getting into crystal healing, sound therapy as well. So you can go to Lady Gwendolyn Healing. That is LadyGwendolynHealing.com. Book your appointment with me. I do in person, I do over the phone, I do over Zoom. We can do that as well. My main goal is to help you grow and heal, because I've been there, I'm still going through it, and let my strength help guide you. See you soon.
Hey everybody, Natalie here from The Pendulum's Path. If you are in need of guidance, direction, spiritual connection, healing, or more, you have come to the right place. I have worked as a psychic and a medium for over 3 years, connecting people from all over the world with their loved ones, giving them insight and guidance into their current situations, their past healings, their blockages, and what they need to know in order for them to have a better future. It would be my absolute honor if you would come to my website at www.thependulumspath.com. Visit my shop. I have a whole bunch of crystals, oils, balms, mystery boxes, and more. And visit my services. I offer 15-minute, 30-minute, and 60-minute sessions. I also have email readings available if you're not comfortable with the one-on-one session with me, or if you just want to try me out. I encourage you to come visit me at the Pendulum's Path, and let's get you back on the right track today.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, we got the dead hat going on. All right, so I do see a blue star there, so I'm assuming we have a question. Let's take it.
Blue star.
Bella Ray Branson.
You know what? This has been a wild year, but then again, I feel like this has been a year that has kicked my ass into gear. So the Thinning of the Veil has not been a bad thing for me.
But anyway, read the question, please, Natalie.
The thinning of the veil has been very hard on me this year. Has anyone else experienced this?
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. The thinning of the veil is very difficult. It's very difficult for a lot of people on both sides of the veil. I mean, you got to realize that on the other side, we have a lot of souls that are just there trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And, this side, we got a lot of people missing. It's a lot of depression, sadness, joy, happiness balled up into a magenta ball of green, canary, yellow, kiss mode. And you have to balance that out.
Yeah, you really do. I had, even last night, I had a lucid dream. I would even borderline it to say it was a visitation. From a loved one on the other side, and it was just so vivid and so real. And even this morning when I woke up, I was like, no, that did happen, didn't it? That's not just like a weird memory in my head. That actually happened. It was just like one of those things where I really had to like take a step back, and I was like, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt so real and surreal at the same time, that it was like, you wake up going, hang on a second, I distinctly remember, and then blah 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 blah, and it's like that memory is held, and our loved ones really are coming through. So all those memories, all that nostalgia, all those weird moments where you kind of feel like crying for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
Usually because there's somebody around you and you're feeling like their sense of longing or missing you as well. And that can trigger us into having those emotions as well. So grounding and protection, folks, grounding and protection if you don't want to get completely overwhelmed by it.
Right.
Well, whenever you've just lost someone this past year, it makes it really hard, because this is the first time that opening is there. So that's where I'm at right now. Like, I view this time of year, I mean, I'm only dressed up because we're doing this. I don't normally do it. I am more of an ancestral person. What?
You need to do it more.
No, I'm not a Halloween costume dress up person.
No, I'm saying dress up, not costume.
No, But this is what I'm saying. I'm not a Halloween costume dressed up person to go out to parties and do all of those things. I am an ancestral person. So that's my other question that I have for everybody. Mm-hmm. Do you find that you are one or the other, or do you have a balance for those?
I don't know. For me, I've always seen All Hallows Eve as a double sword. One, we have guests coming home, but we don't know they're coming home or who's coming home. But it's also party. It's also, see, I have a very weird view on death. Everyone does this mourning, this crying, this upset of death. Not my view. My view is, thank God they got out the damn camping trip. Let's throw a party.
Yeah.
That's the way it was intended to be.
Right. Celebrate leaving this camping trip of hell. For those that don't know, this is hell. And have joy with that. Mm-hmm. And that's problematic for the viewpoints that we have over mentally everyone else.
Sweetheart. Okay, well, honey, you may still be dealing with a lot of emotion. This may not be so much the thinning of the veil as a reaction to trauma.
Yeah, that too.
An abuser of my past passed away this month.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know, whatever you feel, you are allowed to feel. Hurt, sad. You're even allowed to kind of miss them, even though you know better. It's not really
trauma bonding.
And they feel a weird release after you get through it. A lot of times, especially when it's an abuser or someone's had negative-ish impact on your life, goes away.
Mm-hmm. Because you know that they literally physically are no longer a threat to you, even though you've had no contact or whatever for however long period of time. It signifies an ending. And that then is a beginning of a healing process that starts all over again, because you'll have to, again, you're reminded of stuff and then you end up having to revisit it, which is something that I know I will fully have to do when my abusers, when I find out that they have passed away. I'm fully aware that that is going to come for me in some package. Right. And I know I'm going to have to sign for it because that process server does not leave. They keep coming back and knocking on your door until you take it.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Journaling is great. Tonight would be a good time to sit down and write letters. Now let's talk about this. Since I've got 3 mediums here and, an extra large. I'm the extra large, if you're wondering.
And so humble, too.
Of course. I sent out earlier and posted earlier about the tradition of sitting down and having a cup of tea with the dead. Having a meal with the dead.
You know what? I have always wanted to do a mummer's feast.
That's fine, but you better serve dessert first. That feast is done backwards.
Yeah.
You know what? That makes sense. I just knew that it was quiet. I've never attended a proper mummer's feast. I always thought
I have.
That is something maybe since they get the office together, that might be something to do next year.
We'll look at that, but it's complicated. And here's why I say it's complicated. Is because everything is done backwards in the feast. The food is white and bright colored. There is no salt in the food of any type. There is no conversation from the moment the eye goes on until your salad is served.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else I'd like to do that I've never had an opportunity to do is a proper seance, like table tipping the whole 9.
Oh, Lord. Fine. I will send the new boy up to the attic to get the table tipper. I have the cards. I have the wine glass. I just have to see if my white shirt still fits me.
Can you just imagine all of us together in the same room doing that? I mean, that would be entertainment. It would be
amazing, but at the same time, we're going to have to get some camera equipment.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of salt. And a lot of salt to surround the camera equipment. I've been informed
Yeah.
We will end up shorting it all out.
We have to encircle the Joe with his equipment.
Absolutely.
We will short everything out.
Yeah.
Dude, I got pretty close to a proper seance the other day. I went down to do this this event for one of the haunted groups, and I thought it was like an event. Like, you know, we're psychics. A lot of times, I know at least 3 of us go to events. Natalie, do you go to events?
Yeah.
I'm starting to. I'm
She's
dipping
to
my
come on the road,
toes
I'm
in.
going off.
I'm dipping my toes in. I'm learning. I still need hand holding though.
So, like, you know, I thought that this was an event that I had been invited to, and it was an event, but it wasn't like a standard psychic event or Halloween event. It was a haunted house tour. So, and I travel with Mandy, who was on my live stream last Monday, a week ago.
Yeah. Which that live stream is up now on Spotify if you missed it. And of course, we have a peanut gallery comment, Natalie, if you'll catch that in a second.
Anyway, sorry, Joe, you have to wait a moment. So we go into this event, and it's basically a haunted house tour. This guy is going around talking about the history, and like the ghosts there, like the moment I step across this threshold, they're like, hello.
Right.
And especially they're like, we're gonna set you up in the kitchen. I'm like, I'm not setting up in this kitchen. I'll go into the dining room. Like, I'm just naturally drawn to the dining room. It's like there's nothing wrong with the kitchen, but like there's a spirit there is like, you can set up here if you want. Like, this lady is not alive, but she is very much talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what her name is, but you know, I have this whole conversation. I'm like, is it all right if I borrow some of your chairs and take them into the dining room? I've come to find out that an actual like a 1900s renowned psychic had actually been to that location and had set up and had a seance, not at that table, but at the table that was there right in the middle of this dining room. I'm like, this feels preset. I feel like I've walked it. It's almost the same feeling. If anybody lives in Huntington, then if you've ever been to the Rose Garden, when you walk in, you're like, this is just begging to be turned on. Like, there's already something there that's just looking for somebody to flip the switch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I felt at this table. And I swear, it was one of the weirdest single nights I've had in a long time. Like, you know, I've had nights where I was accurate nearly every reading. But there's always like, if you go to do like power reading, there wasn't enough people there to do like a full power reading. I'm like, okay, well, something about this table, just everybody sit around. I had this group of 3 women who sat down at this table with me. I'm like, well, normally I would just turn cards, but why don't you all pitch in $20 each and we'll see who we can get to come through. And it was their mother who came through. And like the whole time I'm like, I'm having this conversation. And at one point I'm just like, I hear swishing of skirts. And it was bizarre.
Uh-huh.
I've never had something like that happen where it was just like, I mean, I've gone to places where there have been circles set up and ready to go.
Uh-huh.
But like, this was like, it was like nobody closed the door after themselves. And it had just been open for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. 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 See, I had that happen when I went to Mailsville. I do not go to Mailsville anymore. If you're having an event there, I hope you have a great time. I will not read at Mailsville.
The auxiliary building I will, but that main building I don't think I would want to. No. I won't go in there alone.
I don't like the administrative area of that building at all. My favorite haunted house, Victorian mansion to go read at is the Anchorage. The housekeeper greets me every time she is at the door, ready to take my bags. I feel like I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that mansion. Hammond House, nothing really spectacular happened there.
Yeah, let's not talk about Hammond House.
No, I'm naming names.
Girl, like, okay, Hammond House, let me just...
Okay.
It is a beautiful house. It is a beautiful house, but damn, they just played that shit up to no fucking end. Like, I'm like, who? You just are you just scripting something here? Because like me and this other girl, I actually ran into the girl I had this conversation with. We went down there Halloween night. I think this was 2020. Because we really weren't supposed to be gathering at the time, but we went there, and she and I were walking through, and we're hanging at the back of the pack, and we're seeing all these people just mesmerized and, you know, getting close together as this guy's telling these fucking stories. I'm like, is that what you're picking up? Because I mean, I'm picking up, you know, they had an active sex life, but I don't think he tortured her, and it just things like that, like.
Well, again,
okay, I've never heard any of those stories there, and I've done readings and energy work and stuff there, and I love it, but I've never had any bad experiences.
I didn't have any
picked up on bad
experiences. What I'm saying, it felt like nobody was home when I was there. Let me see the other one.
There was one lady who popped in and out. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I went there, actually did an episode on that one. That one, to me, felt like going home. I'm like, I have been here before. I'm like, God damn it.
That's a high possibility, but I haven't gotten to experience that one yet. There's another house, and I'm trying to think of where it's at. The Anchorage, and then...
The Blenner has it?
Huh?
The Blenner has it?
I'm trying to think of what its name is. It's going to be sold, but Christine has it in Ohio.
Oh, Bel Air House.
God's honey. If I had the money, I'd buy it.
Yeah. Well, she just started up another one, like in like the same area. So.
Well, I love that house. I love the spirits in that house. There's a few there that need to be calmed down and handed a cup of coffee and a little bit of whiskey and told, you sit there and you calm down and fix my kitchen. You stay out of the basement. And, you know, if you close the portal in the basement, I think if you do set that up as a temple, hold it there, that house would be fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Just to live in?
Just to live in. It's
See,
like,
I'm trying to get into the market for a house. This actually getting the office was part of a stepping stone to try and get, you know, property or whatnot. And that's the eventual plan. I don't know what all is going to happen, but I keep having this idea in my mind that I'm going to go for that one that's been renovated a few times, but people don't live in very long.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so.
See, like murder house.
Yeah, give me the haunted house. Like, give me the murder house.
My grandparents had a pretty haunted house in the UK, and there was
in the UK.
I mean, it's one of those things that I basically have this assumption now that every house in the UK is haunted just based on the history of the land itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just one of those things like everybody, and like at this point, you know, it's like everybody has their own house spirit that they have in their home.
Well, see, that's a common thing, and that's a common thing in I want to say theology, but it's probably not theology. Every house has a spirit.
Mm-hmm. Every house has an energy.
An energy.
Yeah.
And if you treat that energy right, it'll run just fine.
Yes.
If you start mistreating that energy,
yeah, and
you're going to have problems.
I mean, that's absolutely a thing. But given like my grandparents' house was in Edinburgh, Scotland, which is the city built upon another city. When the plague hit, well, yeah, like when the plague hit and they were just like, we're just gonna bury you all underneath here, and it's fine that you're not dead, you will soon. And, you know, we're just gonna ignore the fact that this is happening to you. We're just gonna seal you underground. And then later on, we're gonna remove your bodies. But it's fine for right now. So, like, doing those underground tours and stuff like that, man, the energy underground is heavy. It's heavy. Like, there were some rooms I remember walking past, like, you know, it's underground. Everything's fucking dark, right? Like, everything's dark. Everyone's got their hard hat with their flashlight on because there's no lighting underground. And it's very cold and it's wet and it's just creepy in general. It's just anything underground is creepy in general. But I remember walking past some of these like openings, which were basically like people had carved out rooms for themselves. and it was blacker than the darkness. Like it was like you could see it was like that
visceral darkness.
It was literal, physical, tangible, like you could touch it. Darkness. Like if you walked into it, you were going to come out on the other side of something else. You know what I mean? Like it was a portal or a doorway. And it's like you'd look at the other room that was like diagonally across from it, and the energy in that room, it was nowhere near as dark. You know, it's like you'd look into one room and you'd have your flashlight on, but it was being sucked. Like it was just sucking the light right out of it. Like you couldn't see anything except for the spot that you were lit on. But you go into another room that's equally as dark as the other one, you know, it's all underground, there's no windows, and you'd be able to illuminate, you know, 50-40% of that room at a time. So the energy down there was very, very different. But up on the surface, even like my grandparents' neighbors' houses that I would go into, you absolutely, I remember as a kid feeling like I'm not alone. There are other eyeballs on me and I can't tell anybody because no one will listen. And, you know, and I'm just going to sit here and freak out and like freeze because that was my response to being watched. It was just to freeze and let them watch me more because that's smart.
You know what though, I feel you on that. Like there's a whole package of psychic childhood trauma to sit here and unpack online. You know,
yeah.
Who else there?
Like I am fully aware that I am not alone in this room, but my body won't let me run away from it, and I'm gonna stand here and be terrified until somebody summons me away. Like,
oh, girl, no, I would wake up in the middle of the night. Mom is, of course, you know, I can buy my shit pretty honestly. Like, Mom is a medium and a nurse, so like every spirit in the fucking county who needed to be moved
to say hi
would come through that house.
Yeah.
So I would wake up and I'm like, if I don't move, they're not gonna know I'm awake and they won't do anything for me.
They're making direct eye contact with you. You know that they are.
Like, and you're just like, oh my God, sleep paralysis.
Last night, okay, let me take a step back. So first of all, it was probably, I didn't look at the clock, but it was most likely around 3:00 in the morning that I get up and I'm like, God damn it, I have to pee. I don't want to go and pee. I don't want to. So I go use the bathroom, and as I come back in, I look in my bedroom, and right in front of the curtain is just solid black thing, and it looked like they were holding either like a book or something, like they had something solid in their hand, and I just went, not now, and I crawled back into bed, and I was just like, wow, Nat, you've really grown. Because I didn't freak out. I was just like, really? I'm so tired. And I was like, I know I don't have my glasses on, but I know I can see you there. And yeah, my heart did skip a beat for a second, but first of all, I'm so tired right now. So can we just not? You can stay there all you want. I don't care at this point. Just let me go to sleep.
Dude, I will tell this to all the spirits out there. Look, if you want help crossing, it's okay to wake me up. If you touch me, it's on. If you touch me, it's on like Donkey Kong. Right. I will not tolerate that in the slightest.
Like, you wake me up, we got a problem. Like, you wake me up, we have a problem. I will wake up swinging.
All right, so let's take on this question.
Do you have now, or did you grow up with a Halloween tradition that you didn't realize was something not everyone else did?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we answer this? How do we answer this? Like, I mean, didn't everybody?
Things you grow up down is like, no, not everybody leaves a plate of food out by accident. Not everybody enjoys a drink in the evenings. because it's Halloween, including the children.
You bet your butt I already have a couple pieces of chocolate sitting on my altar. You know why? Because I'm like, listen, you're not a diabetic anymore. You can have this.
Yeah.
What about you, Miss
You know what I
Do you
mean?
have
It's like
traditions
you
that
here.
not every
suffer.
household did?
Huh?
No.
No, I got dressed up and sent out for trick or treating and stuff like that. But that's it. I don't really have a whole lot of memories as far as doing that past being really little. Like once I was 10, I was like done with everything. That's what I said. My path has not led me down, the trick or treating part. It's led me to honor the dead, and
right.
So
what about you, Miss Dottie?
For a while, this was something I found and did. I was lighting a candle for the dead every year. I would light a candle for, people who had passed, people who were visiting, and I haven't done it for a few years.
All right. So, Nat?
I remember as a kid sitting in the room, really dark, being very, very still, hoping to see something, like just hoping, because it was Halloween and, that was the night where things were supposed to happen. So I remember distinctly at least 4 or 5 occasions as a kid, like after trick-or-treating and after all the fun and the sugar high had crashed and everyone else was settling down, I remember sitting silently in my room, almost holding my breath, hoping to hear a whisper or feel a touch or something along those lines to prove that Halloween wasn't just like a candy holiday. Like Valentine's Day was another candy holiday. But in the UK growing up, Halloween is not, or was not, what it was in America. So the whole big festival of having like like Halloween parties with bobbing for apples and costume parties and all of that stuff, that was an American thing. There was no dressing up for Halloween in the UK because it was more of, no, it's the night where the spirits walk. You should probably stay inside and lock your doors and just, not open the doors if you hear anyone knocking. Because, it's probably not a good idea to open the doors if you hear someone knocking on Halloween night and you weren't expecting visitors. It was one of those things. It was met with more apprehension than it was fun. So when I was talking about this with my mom earlier, I was like, I remember distinctly my first Halloween. Like the first Halloween that we celebrated. I remember every piece of it. And keep in mind, I'm going to eat my own words here. I did wear green face, albeit I was like 5 years old, guys. Okay. And I did not know better at the time, but it was the aesthetic back then. So my mom said that she had to call, because back then you knew every neighbor in the neighborhood, whether you liked them or not, you had their phone number. Okay. And it was just, everyone knew everybody. So my mom called all of the neighbors and was like, listen, my kids want to do Halloween. Is it okay if I bring them around to your house? Now with trick or treat, it was either they gave you a treat or you did a trick on them. So my mom got my brother like fake hands or fake fingers that would pull off if you shook someone's hand, and cans of silly string and like foam and stuff like that, like little safe pranks that you could pull on people. And they did the whole, like, if they didn't have something to give, they would say trick. And my brother or I would pull a fake Halloween-y prank on them by like pulling a fake booger out of our nose or removing a finger, something along those lines. So there was a trick involved in trick or treat.
That's a lot nicer than tradition.
It was like a black trash bag with green paint on me. It was like, that was my costume, was a black trash bag and a belt maybe, or something along those lines. Like there was no costumes for sale. It was like, I have nothing to create this with. Costume store had fake fingers and face paint and maybe a stick-on nose or a wart and other adhesives for scar tissue or whatever, and that was it. That was all you got.
Okay, guys.
And they were really bad.
Break, and we'll be back.
Welcome back, goblins! My name is Jason, and I am the host of the Esoteric Book Club, a podcast that examines titles on the magical, paranormal, the mysterious, and the strange. I release 2 episodes a month in which I review books on esoteric topics, recap news of the weird, and conduct interviews with authors, practitioners, and experiencers. The Esoteric Book Club can be found on every major podcast service or can be streamed directly from esotericbookclub.org.
Hi, I'm Tracy Vann. I provide a blended reading consisting of mediumship, psychic, and tarot cards. A reading from me can cover any guidance you need from relationships with your partner or your family, spiritual, financial, any questions you may need clarity on. If you would like to book an appointment with me, check out my website, tracyvann.com. That's TracyVann.com. I have bookings from 15 to 60 minutes you may choose from. That helps if you just have a quick question, need an answer, or if you're looking for a reading in more depth, I'm here to provide the guidance and clarity for you. Let's just figure it out. Bye.
Hi, Techie Joe here. I work with Ace and Knight and some of the best psychics in West Virginia to create amazing live streams and podcasts for the Psychic Coffee Shop Network. Together, we brew up great content discussing news, events, hot topics, and more, all from a psychic perspective. On the Psychic Coffee Shop, we interview amazing authors in the metaphysical realm. Coffee and Tea combines ASIN with Tracy, Dottie, Natalie, or Lady Gwendolyn for the good and the bad of being a psychic. Shameless Self-Promotion with Dottie the Psychic talks to leading and emerging YouTubers and business owners in our community. Mountain Bears brings you the latest in LGBT news and politics. The Psychic That Plans answers the question of, well, how a psychic plans. Plus, we're live on air. We take your comments and your questions, including psychic advice questions. Check out our amazing programming, book an appointment with top psychics, and find out all the wonderful things we have to offer at pcsbnetwork.com today.
Hi, I'm Ace and Knight. I provide tarot readings covering everything from love and relationships to your life questions and your most spiritual answers. And also, I provide a lot of guidance in finances and divorces and all those relationship problems. So, if you'd like to get a reading from me privately, not on air, you can feel free to do so by visiting aceandnight.com and booking your appointment. I also provide on-demand services, so if your life is a little chaotic, you can go ahead and click that call now button there on my site. Great for a quick answer question. All right, guys, back to the show. Enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Psychic Roundtable. We are taking questions for readings. We are dealing with a hellhound that has to go out, so I'm going to pop down for a minute. But Natalie, you mentioned you didn't have Halloween in the UK.
Yeah.
You didn't have the season we're getting ready to move into.
Well, yes. You mean autumn? The season of autumn, not fall, too.
No, the season of gratitude.
Oh, the season of gratitude. Oh, yeah. No, that is definitely like the season of Thanksgiving, or the season of giving thanks is not. It's also not a British holiday. I have seen now there is like an emergence of people celebrating Thanksgiving, especially as there's a lot more people from America moving over to the UK. that do celebrate it, and then they're sharing that tradition with people in the UK, and then they're looking forward to having like those Friendsgivings or Thanksgivings and things like that. So culture is still constantly being shared from country to country. Sometimes it just takes a really long time for things to take off and for everybody else to kind of catch on to it. And even though the history of the holiday does not exist in the UK, the energy and the element that is behind it is definitely being introduced. But again, it's not something that's like readily like celebrated and things like that, because again, like the truth and reality behind Thanksgiving is not exactly something that should be celebrated.
Let's not celebrate the Puritans. Let's not.
It's
well,
one of those,
no, let's
it's one
take
of those
this
things,
back.
but the energy behind it and being thankful for what you have received so far during the year. Because in Celtic tradition, this marks the end of the year. Like this is the end of the year. So why would you not reflect on the previous year that you've just had and be thankful for what you did receive? It's kind of like saying thank you before you've been given like your gift. It's like, don't speak too soon because December's still hanging around and things could still go south. So there's still chance for things to go tits up for you.
Well, no, I wanted to bring this up, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, is because we get stuck on 1954 mass marketing anti-communism.
Mm-hmm.
We don't look at the other gratitude seasons, gratitude favors, gratitude ceremonies. We have to look at it culturally. There's been a Thanksgiving, multiple occurrences of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
From the harvest. We're getting ready to have the meat harvest. This would have been the beginning of the meat harvest. Y'all guys tell me why West Virginia used to take 2 weeks off for hunting, because they're going to do a meat harvest.
Mm-hmm.
So there's gratitude for that. There's hope for that. There's hope for the war to get through the winter.
Right.
There's giving back that occurs. There's giving to charity, which is where I think we get the treats and stuff from. So we're going to hear a lot of this mass media about 1954's Puritanism, when Thanksgiving could have happened in March, because Thanksgiving was actually a federal day of Thanksgiving that started during World War I, and started building through it. If we go back to the Celts, they would have the celebration, Samhain, or harvest home or whatever, to celebrate and that they made it that far. Like the Puritans, they formed a holiday. Maybe, we don't know. We can't really document it, because guess what? Nobody wrote that shit down.
Right. So it's like that may or may not have actually happened. I mean, yes, a lot of the stuff did happen, but was it all like, oh, let's all gather around one big table and have one big massive meal? Maybe, maybe not.
That was
it's like I highly doubt that was the thing. Maybe multiple meals were shared at multiple tables before they realized this was a bad idea. We shouldn't be inviting these strangers into our kitchens. This is bad.
Well, no. See, that time they were still in communal feeding. Like the whole village was having to live in like 3 huts.
Right.
So every meal was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being grateful for what was foraged, what was hunted, what was prepared.
Yeah.
All of that, and it's like a lot of people in multiple religions, they give thanks before they eat their food. They give thanks before they start preparing their food. If it's meat based, there are people who bless their food or give thanks to the animal for giving its life so that we can still live. It's one of those things where that is still very much a thing, or saying grace before a meal and giving thanks for what you have received that day, or that month or week or whatever. That's still very much keeping in the element of Thanksgiving. One part about the whole American Thanksgiving tradition thing that has always rubbed me the wrong way is the whole presidential pardon of one turkey. And I'm like, you are literally condemning one to death publicly. You are literally publicly announcing that you were going to cut off the other dude's head. You're like, oh no, but I'm saving this one oh, let's celebrate. I saved this one. I'm like, you just showed everyone. Look at this cute little turkey. We're going to cut off his head later.
Well, that's your country's fault.
That's a great illustration of the hypocrisy of the whole holiday. It's Halloween. Let's get back to Halloween.
When I first saw this in America. When I first moved to the United States, I was like, what are they doing? And they're like, they're going to pardon one of the two turkeys. And I was like, and the other one, I was mortified. I was just like, I can't even with this country. I was like 9 years old and I was mortified.
From your country.
Huh?
Because on Christmas, the Queen would traditionally pardon one convict.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't like she was condemning the other one to death later on that afternoon, Asen. There's a big difference.
No, they were already condemned to death.
The other one still got to keep his head on after the event. The other one sitting on the lawn shaking himself.
I don't hope they're not related.
It's like a more intense version of American Idol. It's like, God damn it, I hope I got enough votes.
All right, you hope this one gave you enough favor.
Dottie is like got coffee coming out of her damn nose. She's like, I can't even with you.
Well, you're Indian British. What traditions there?
I mean, November 5th is coming up real quick, Ace, and I gotta start making a straw man to burn soon.
Yes. Either that or you have to hunt a stranger in the village.
I mean, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder season and plot. I mean, that was my holiday. I was like, let's build an effigy and burn it.
Yeah.
While I was sat out there with a mug full of Heinz tomato soup and croutons going, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Uh-huh. Well, again, this is very important. And there's a double tradition there. You either burn the straw man.
Yes.
Or you have to go find a villager and kill them. You're not familiar with.
What, the Guy Fawkes?
Yeah.
So he essentially just shove it all up into one neat little package. He decided it was a good idea to bomb Parliament or attempt to bomb Parliament, and he had enough explosives. I think they said it was like 400 square miles outside of London. Like it would have leveled London and then some.
Uh-huh.
And keep in mind, London is not the London that we know it to be today. There's a lot less housing. There's a lot less population. Things were a little bit more spread out, but still, that's a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And he was found, and he was tried, and then he was sentenced to death. That happened. So, like if you've watched V for Vendetta,
yeah,
that's where that's based off of.
Well, that, and then there's also this thing about the spirit of the land trying to run away.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to catch it.
Yep.
And the civil way of doing it, they do now is they make a stick man and burn a stick man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of stuff out here. I'm pretty sure I could craft something up pretty quickly, like carve a little eye and face into it. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a funny story that you might find amusing. So my maiden name is Fox, F-O-X, just like the animal.
Uh-huh.
When my mom was pregnant with my brother, the one name that she really, 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 really was like, really just, I really love this name, was the name Guy. But it's probably not a good idea to name your son Guy Fawkes when the guy who is known in history for trying to like kill everybody is the name Guy Fawkes. And I was like, it just sounds a little too close to that, and it might be treading on some dangerous waters.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to not name him Guy, but my mom's like, I really kind of did want to. And I was like, hindsight's always 20/20, Mom.
Well, my question to her is, do you want a child terrorist?
What?
A 3-year-old child terrorist looking at you going, I want to kill the bunny if I don't get
I know, seriously. And my brother really was a Dennis the Menace growing up. So adding that name to the energy, I think, was probably not a good idea. So I think my mom made the right choice in not naming him Guy.
Okay, I got a question.
Okay.
Has anybody ever heard of the Cutty Sow?
Heard of the what?
Cutty Sow. Like, it's something I heard was an Irish tradition.
All right, I need more than that. I don't have a lot of
information on it.
It's not ringing any bells.
All right, well, I'll look it up later. I thought maybe you would know about it.
I mean, there's a lot of, I've heard of a lot of Celtic, Gaelic, like old Highland traditions, lowland traditions. Like, I've heard of so many that it's hard to keep track of, because it's like when you have family that's spread out all over the country, it's like I've got family in Wales who does things one way, and you go up like to northern Scotland, they do things completely different way, and they have a completely different ritual, or they believe a completely different thing entirely. So, you know, it all depends on the culture and the lore and things like that. So it's like I may have heard of it, whether or not it's retained in my memory is another thing.
Right. All right. Shannon's got a really long comment. Can we highlight that and talk about it?
What? Why not both? Yeah.
Oh, that's a link. Great. Go up one more.
Oh, Joe put something in the private chat. If you want me to read it off, it should be fun.
For it.
If nothing else, you all get to watch me read out loud, which is always entertaining. The Cutty Black Sow is a demon or monster that is believed to steal the souls of its human victims on Halloween. It often appears as a black female pig with glowing eyes that walks upright on its hind legs like a human. It is sometimes associated with a headless woman. It's like, okay, well, because I heard about it on an old.
It's like it reminds me of oh my god, the Welsh horse, Mary. Yeah, that is kind of like a similar visual representation. Instead of it being a horse, it's a pig or a sow. So I'm like, there might actually be just like a cultural change even between those two, because there's just a few months different between those two stories or those two legends matching up. You know,
so one of my favorite ancestral traditions on this night is to tell stories of the ancestors. So I thought we would start with Gwen and have her tell a family story, then Dottie, then Natalie, and then me. And then we'll wrap the show up. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to think of something.
Okay. So this one is laid at the feet of my Aunt Mary and my grandmother. You got to understand, this is the 1930s and 40s. It's probably 1940s. Women do not drive in West Virginia. It is unheard of women to drive. They are still dealing with situations of, you know, women need to stay at home barefoot and in the kitchen. So they get dressed up, and my grandmother has scrimped and saved the pennies. She has sold the eggs, bought the bread, sold it too, done everything to save up cash. They get dressed up, they go into town, they go down to King Cole, and they're walking around looking at the cars. My grandmother doesn't drive. She hasn't ever learned how to drive. And the salesman comes up and talks to her. Oh, are you looking for your husband? Blah, blah, blah. You know, this is at the time when Cadillac had this whole thing going on about buy an automatic for your what, you know, that type of advertisement going on. And she talks to him and Jews him down to literally she had $20 more than what the car cost.
Wow.
She gets a Cadillac, and she says, it's a present for my husband. Can you deliver it tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.? He goes into the mine in the morning. So she gets the man to deliver the car. down to Fet Station in front of the house. He draws up, he hands her the paperwork and says, when your husband gets home, he'll know what to do with this. Here's the keys. And I even bought a big bow for the car. And there was some
10
other
minutes
things
later.
in the car as presents for the husband.
Yeah. No,
leaves.
that's mine.
Guy leaves. My Aunt Mary comes down and explains to her what a gas pedal is and what a brake pedal is, and why if you want to go backwards, you have to put it on that R, and if you want to go forward, you have to put it on the D, and if you want, when you stop and you're getting out of the car, make sure you put it on P for park your ass. And you have to understand, my grandmother was only 5'3" in heels.
Yeah.
For those that do not know, Cadillacs used to have a bench seat to them.
They're boats.
They are boats.
They're boats.
So even moving the seat all the way up, she needed a pillow.
Yeah.
So she took the clothes that my father had outgrown and made a pillow and taught herself how to drive.
Good for her.
Without a driver's license, she drove from Fayette Station to Charleston to register the car and get a driver's license the same day.
Good for her.
And of course, to get a driver's license, all she had to go in was show that she was an American citizen. So that's my grandmother's story of, if you don't know how to do it, you figure it the fuck out.
Well, I only had 2 images come up in my head. One was my grandma, my grandmother's mom. She only had her arm on this side until about here. But I've seen her do some phenomenal things with what left she had of her arm. And my grandmother, her daughter, that's the one I call my soulmate. We did everything together. I was there when she took her last breath. She was my entire world. But I seen her. Whenever I was little, we went to the store and right there in Weston, and there was a black snake in the store. Came up out of the river, went into the store. My grandmother picked it up by its tail, whipped it around her head, and just flung it. And I had never been more amazed at anything.
Like that human is indestructible. Nothing will kill them.
I mean, it was just whoosh.
Like superhero shit right there.
Yeah, like just the most amazing thing. Yeah, so
that's awesome. That's too funny.
Yeah.
So mine is actually pretty funny. We were talking about, the trauma of being a psychic child. So a lot of nights I was too afraid to get out of the bed, but my dad was a night owl, so he would often be up, and so if I saw the light on, sometimes I would just run out and run to my dad. Like I had a bad dream or something. I felt like something was in the room. So this one night, I'm like, Dad, there's like this doppelganger in my room. It looked like it was very strange. And I come out and I get Dad, and he's like, he hands me this knife. And the knife from Crocodile Dundee, where
yes, I was going to say, the knife in my head was, this is a knife.
That's the knife.
That's all I heard in my head was, here, this is a knife.
It's a Bowie hunting knife, and Dad had it partially because of that movie. He was a sword salesman. He sold knives and swords, so he had a knife.
Yes.
So he hands me this knife. He's like, let me get my gun, and
because that's gonna fix it.
He was like, just in case there is actually somebody in your room, I'm gonna follow you with a gun, okay?
You will do the same amount of damage with an airsoft gun, dude. It's not gonna do anything.
No, we're from West Virginia. It was a 9mm. He follows me with a 9mm. Just in case there really is somebody there. Just in case I really did see somebody in my room. He gives me this knife, and he's like, here, just put it under your pillow for tonight. I'll get it in the morning. And so we go. My sister's asleep through this whole thing. Like, we shared a proper country. We slept in the same bed as long as we lived under the same roof, pretty much. Like, so she slept through this whole thing.
This whole ordeal. That's hilarious.
This whole ordeal. I just put it under my pillow. Like, the next morning, he's like, you got my knife? I'm like, yeah, here. He says, and I was like, Dad, why? Years later, I'm like, why?
Make that make sense.
She was talking to me. Shut up, Joe. Shut up.
Oh,
I was like, and he looked at me. And just deadpanned in the way that only my father could. He's like, well, how do you handle an irrational fear rationally? Thanks, Dad. I mean,
that really clarifies things. That really clears it up. There's a ghost in my room. Here's a knife. Oh, thanks.
You know what, though? It taught me two very, very important lessons. Number one, stand up for yourself. Your space, you command it. You know, he did. And number two, my daddy always had my back, even if it was fucking ridiculous.
Right.
When he did, he's like, just sleep with it under your pillow. And if it comes back out at you, just, I'm like, what the? Even at the time, I'm like, what are you smoking?
Right. Like, you really think it's a really good idea.
At least for our parents. Natalie, your turn.
I grew up in a completely different culture. Weapons were not handed to children because they were scared. Okay.
My dad raised us around him. Like, I shot a gun when I was 6 years old.
Like, that was not a
passage.
thing. That was definitely, it was always a very stiff upper lip kind of situation. You know, it was just stiff upper lip. Everything will be fine. Just don't talk about it. Everything will just go away magically on its own.
Nope. My dad. Well, I will tell you that, like, my dad was very much, let's deal with this shit. I got to appreciate that as well. He definitely didn't just pretend like it was nothing, and that was one of the things that really stuck out to me. Like, he didn't pretend like it was nothing. He may have gone a little over the situation, but we were raised around swords and knives. I mean, it was a rite of passage in our family to shoot guns. Like, when at 6 years old, he took each of us out to shoot a gun. And he taught us about the guns because he kept guns in the house. He's like, you don't point it at anything you don't want dead. Yeah. And, you know, he taught us very young, and we had to be around swords and knives because we were selling them. Like, we were behind the booth. There's a whole table of cutlery of various sizes and shapes.
Yeah.
And we called it wall jewelry because it mostly was crap, but
so you grew up around weaponry, and I grew up around drag queens. Two very different upbringings, Dottie.
I guess I grew up in the middle of both of y'all's upbringings. I was growing up with
both of y'all. That's a whole nother story. Like, it wasn't actually drag queens, but it was close.
I would come home and find 5 or 6 very tall, very good-looking men trying on ball gowns and pantyhose in my living room after walking off the school bus. And I'm like, I remember looking at my mom. I was like, you do know that no other child walks into this, right? Like, I am the only person in my school that gets to see this when they come home from school, right? Like, just so we're clear, this is not a normal home environment. And then I walked into my room and everyone was just pissing themselves with laughter because I was being so funny about it, you know? But I was like, just so you know, I am aware that this is not normal. When people will say, oh, I had a great childhood, mine was very confusing.
My family life was wonderful, but I was aware that we were in fact the Addams family of the neighborhood.
You know, it's one of those things. Yeah, normal is definitely overrated. Every time I tell my kid, I was like, listen, embrace your weirdness because it's what makes you great and it's what makes you likable. Mm-hmm. And it's what makes you connect with other people because then other people are like, see, they're weird like me. I like that, you know, and then you find your people who are also weird like you.
Tommy's family. You know, my dad was a proud member of the NRA.
Well, not only granted, you know, the NRA was a very challenging situation. But you bring up a good topic. The attitude was very different when all of us grew up.
Yeah.
Than now. And I
Yeah.
often wonder if it isn't because we were instilled with, there's a gun, right there it is. This is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you use it. This is what you don't do with it. This is what you do with it.
Yeah. Now, when we're on the subject of talking about our ancestors and stories and cultural differences and generational differences, here's my story. The night we nearly gave my grandfather a stroke.
That's always a good start.
Like, we saw it building in his face. He was very close to an aneurysm that day. Okay, so just to preface the story, okay, my grandparents, 1920s, 1930s, you know, like, that's when they were born. They lived a very, like, all through the war, multiple wars, multiple bombings in the UK. Like, it was a lot to deal with. My grandfather, even though he knows better now, was extremely homophobic and racist, and also had everything against anybody that had tattoos or piercings.
I know what you're talking about.
Women who had just singular piercings in their ears, that was distasteful to him. One day, I think my cousin was like 16, and a male cousin came in with his ear pierced. Oh no. Oh no. My cousin was banned from seeing my grandparents for a few months. I think it was like 3 months. Like, he was not allowed, no conversation, no talking, nothing. Okay. Fast forward to the end of like that whole situation, like that following Christmas, my entire family's at my grandparents' house about to sit down for Christmas dinner, and everyone in the family was aware that my grandfather had just blown up and essentially partially, like, temporarily disowned one of his grandchildren because he got one ear pierced. And he was in a rock band and everything. It was like literally no one gave a shit except for my grandfather. No one gave a fuck.
Who gave all the rest of them for him.
Yeah, except for him. So my mother, this is where I get it from. My mother was like, oh, what a great idea. I found all of these magnetic and clip-on piercings. Hey, Natalie. Hey, Ryan. Come up to the bedroom, kids. Oh, I had the eyebrow, the nose, the lip, the tongue, everything. Temporary tattoos, the whole 9 yards. And me and my brother sat at the other end of the table because my mother's like, I'm going to make a silent statement here, you freaking piece of shit. And I mean, like, the shade of purple that my father turned, Barney could not compare. Like, you could see every vein on his person just protruding with anger. And it was like we all just sat and ate and didn't say shit. We just sat and ate. Said nothing. Did nothing. And the whole time he was fuming. No one said anything at that dinner. It was the most silent Christmas meal we had ever had because he was about to have an aneurysm. I mean, my mom was like this close to putting like a Mike Tyson thing like on the face. Like, she was really, and I was like, I think that might push him too far, Mom. Yeah. I was like, even for me as a kid, and I was like, I really don't want to kill him, but I understand the point that you were trying to make here, but I don't want to kill the man. I want to help you prove this point of how stupid it is that he made that fit. And I fully respected my mom. And I'm sorry, Granddad, it was funny as fuck.
But no, that was very commonplace. I mean, you know, I was told as a child, you get your ears pierced, I'm disowning you.
Yeah.
Not by my cool grandmother, by my English grandmother. Yeah, 18, I got my first piercing. I'm up to 12 now.
Right.
And a tad, and I'm like, how far do I have to go to really get fully disowned here?
Right. Exactly. It is like at some point, I think my mom stopped asking me if a piercing was new or not, or if I just got bored and just decided to like put it back in, because half the time she's like, is that one new? No, I've had this one for years. I just decided to like, put something back into it again. Or I would be like, you're not going to say anything. She's like, oh, I thought you had that one for years. No, this is a brand new one. I've never had this one before,
My dad was the one who was all tattooed. Like grandma did not get her ears pierced. She was always a lady of fashion. High, she was she believed, but she didn't get even her ears pierced. She would get the clip-ons or the old-fashioned studs where you had to screw them on. It takes for fucking ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the screw-on clip-ons. Yeah, and you'd have a purple earlobe at the end of it, and it would be like 5 inches longer than it was ever supposed to be.
When she died, her ears were like this, like they were.
Yeah, like seriously, they were like, yeah. Everybody had big earlobes back then just because of the clip-ons.
But Dad, he would only get them he would never go shirtless around my grandma because of the tattoos. Like it was the only time you see Dad wear a shirt all the time, because he had his nipples pierced. He was counting his tattoos and body coverage, and he also had a ring in his ear. Every time I would do something terrible, anytime I would do something that would upset my grandmother, my dad would hear all about it. He actually confronted me one time. He's like, every time you screw up, she blames me.
Like, I'm the one who has to deal with it and explain it all.
Stop telling your grandmother you're a witch. I told my grandmother's preacher I was a witch at 16. I got a lot of praying that day. It was funny. Like, we're sitting there arguing about scripture. I'm like, we can argue about this all day. You know more about the scripture than I do. I just still don't believe it.
Right. It's like, I agree. It's a story and there is some morality in there and there's a lesson and I get it, but still it's not tugging at the heartstrings.
My grandmother looked at me one time straight faced. She says, honey, I'm proud of you. I'm not ashamed of you, but I really wish you wouldn't tell my friends what you do.
Because it's raising a lot of questions and it's not looking good at the Bible group on Thursdays.
Oh, please. There's more palm reading, tea drinking, gossiping.
And gossip going on at those Bible studies than anything else. I've been to some of them and I'm like...
All right, so Joe has a question. Does your mother often reflect and ask if that's why you got them? Maybe there was a piece of me that was like, I actually look kind of good with this. I could rock a nose ring in the future. That kind of thing. I think a lot of my piercings and tattoos are from wanting to release trauma and pain. And that was the way that I chose to do it, because it was in a controlled setting and I ended up with something to look back on afterwards and be like, hey, I rose above that. That's kind of cool. I have only one tattoo that I wish I could change, but that's a story for a completely different day. But I got a great tattoo artist that can change anything, literally.
But there was one person in my mom's group of friends. His name was Jeff, and he was a hairstylist, and he was pretty close to being fully covered in ink. Like pretty close to being fully covered in ink. And he had a bifurcated tongue, and each one of those splits was also pierced. So he had a bifurcated split snake tongue, and each one of those was pierced. He had his entire head was tattooed. So whether he was shaved a head or not was, you could see it. He had black ink tattoos on his face. So at nightclubs, he'd walk in and there would be like this glowing face staring back at you that was fully tattooed. He had piercings in his, on his knuckles even. He had subdermal implants in his eyebrows. Like, he had little bumps on his eyebrows even. And I remember looking at this guy going, you are the coolest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. And he worked for Cirque du Soleil as a contortionist for many years. I mean, this guy could get himself through a tennis racket like no one's business. And you'd look at him and be like, that is physically going to be impossible for you. There is no way that is going to happen. And he would dislocate everything in every single way and just wiggle his way through like a freaking snake. And he'd be like, ta-da! And he'd be like, fold himself into a suitcase, everything. And I was like, that's so cool. And I've studied all of his tattoos. I was like, that is so beautiful. I want all of it.
Well, guys, it's been great hanging with you on Samhain, All Hallows Eve, Halloween.
Oh, wait, we got one more. Shannon.
Yeah. If you guys want to we'll take that one after Shannon, and I'll share it.
I'm learning not to look at my bags in front of our church group. Oh God.
Yeah, I'm curious now. Like my curiosity is
and my mom's the one who would pull out the not safe for church thing in the middle of Bible study. Like, look what I have. That's my mom.
So since Natalie's being my talkative reader, here you go, Natalie.
Which one?
Thank you for your support to our Patreon to make this station happen.
Thank you so much to everybody who makes the station happen. We'd like to give thanks to Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Dottie the Psychic, Tracy Vann, Donna Waite, Caitlin Bell, and the Laughing Tree Grove. Woo! If you would like to continue to support the show, please visit www.pcspnetwork.com and please visit all of our websites, book in with us, and show your love and support to all of our amazing readers.
Yes, because they also make the show possible. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a blessed Hallows Eve.
Safe travel and much profit to you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
May, the wild hunt pass you. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
You can't tell me the deck is stacked. Whisper behind my back. You can show me how the odds are up against me all day long, but I've been through the fire and come out alive, and there's no more fear in my eyes. Oh, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop